Welcome to Brian's Action Figure Reviews, and today we've got another pop culture interview. Today I interviewed Joshie Beavan, who is a friend of mine, fellow admin on Power Rangers Lightning UK and many other Facebook groups, and we talk about action figures of all shapes and sizes and pricing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the interview. I'm not going to say any more, just get to it. Hello everyone, here's Joshie Beavan. He's here, our guest today. Say hello to everybody, Joshie.
Hiya.
So thanks for coming on the show, man. As you know, we always start by letting you give a bit of information about yourself and what you're up to and stuff.
I'm just sort of an admin on a lot of the Facebook groups, or a few of them, been involved in other ones and left over time, sort of in the background of most other groups. And I'm also part of the LGBT community, which kind of gives me a different view on the community as well, because, well, it's weird because in the LGBT, being a geek isn't a big thing.
Yeah.
But you can obviously see in the group there's some big prevalent LGBT collectors, aren't there?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking I'm the only one that doesn't do anything creative, to be fair. But the major ones all sort of do creative stuff. So it's been quite interesting sort of connecting with them and talking to them as well. Because in the LGBT circle, it's kind of a weird thing to be a geek. So when you find other ones, you sort of congregate together a little bit and sort of start sharing stories and stuff like that. Which is
so have you got any good stories like that to tell us for today?
I don't know. Well, it's just more sort of like acceptances of different things and how it's got people through things. So, for example, like being gay, and I was kind of different at school. So I used to go into, luckily my library at school used to have like a comic book section. So I used to go and read them during lunch breaks rather than getting problems in the schoolyard and stuff like that. So it sort of immersed me into this world. And if you look at like a lot of like the gay collectors and stuff like that, it's a very sort of like immersive world they sort of get into, creating sort of their own stuff, and a lot of female characters. I think I'm the weird one in that one, where I like the more male characters and a lot of them like female characters. But no, it's nice to be able to connect with people, because the gay world can be somewhat sort of superficial. So it's nice to have people that are kind of like have similar interests to you, rather than sort of like, that's difficult to explain when you're not in the gay world, but it's that kind of thing. Like, it's a very weird kind of environment, so it's nice to be able to connect with like-minded people, and not like you're only the only gay collector in the world.
Yeah, cool. So, as you were growing up, what was your favorite toy or your favorite memory of toys?
Well, see, when I was growing up, my mum was a single mother, so I didn't really have a massive amount of money coming in. They'd always try. She went without for me for plenty of times, she's told me. So it took a lot of imagination to sort of do things. So I was into Power Rangers, but the Megazords were so much money, so I could only ever get these things. And I think at one point we went to a local toy shop, and I saw something from a line I really want, which was called War Planets, which is long dead and gone now. I was like, I want this. And she was like, no, let's not get you this. And she picked up something else. It's one of those sort of like, you get them today in blooming pound stretcher and all that, the walking robots with light up things. I'm like, no, I want this. You got lots of them. And it was like, even then I was collecting certain things and I had my certain interests. But because of like the money and the financial system, something that really drew my attention was the Lego line Bionicle.
Oh yeah, nice.
So I still collect it to this day, but it allowed me to kind of, the interesting part of it was like, okay, you had these interesting characters, but just like Lego, you could go and make your own action figures. So I'd make my own characters. So for example, I made my own Goku style character, because there was no Dragon Ball Z toys around that were good at the time. I think one pet peeve I've always had is lack of articulation. Even as a child, I've had that peeve. Like, action features, they can piss off.
Yeah, I was very same.
Yeah, so having like figures with ball and socket joints that you could make up your own characters and stuff was sort of like a budget way of me sort of creating characters that I really want to create. So I ended up collecting a lot of that. I've got boxes and boxes of that stuff still to this day, and I still build and fiddle around with that. So that's sort of my creative side to some degree. But no, there was a fair few things I was into back in the day. But as I said, finances kind of kept me away from those sort of avenues. Like, there was a lot of good stuff in the 90s. Not much of it gets love to this day, sadly. Like, there's so many decent franchises. Like, when you look into like the Marvel Legends sort of era of things. You've now got the Jim Lee style 90s cartoon. It's getting so much love. Spider-Man's now going to get the retro series coming out. They've just now done Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Hasbro. You've got so many lines from the 90s, like they just don't get any love. And then you look towards like the 80s and stuff like that, and I get Thundercats are loved, Master of the Universe are loved, and stuff like that. And Turtles, oh God, I've seen so many movie Turtles nowadays, it's ridiculous. Or retro Turtles from NECA. And you look back and you think, well, the He-Man reboot, for example, I watched that and I enjoyed that. And I thought, okay, so the original 80s stuff was quite product placement based. It was based on introduce a new character,
Yeah.
sell a toy, scrap that, you won't see him ever again. Like Transformers, the Power Glide episode. Who cares about Power Glide? He's got a whole episode about him. Sell a toy, he's never appears again.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Whereas when it came to 2000s, the toy lines were separate, and they also felt that they didn't have to always have every product on the show, and they would sort of develop characters more. So these reboots sort of more had more life and longevity to them, but they just don't get the love that the older stuff gets. So you'd look at Gargoyles, that's an amazing franchise. But even Master of the Universe stuff, that literally got a few figures, and I think most of them are really hard to get a hold of for the 2000 series. But that's it, gets no love. The Turtles 2000, sort of late 90s, 2000.
Nickelodeon show, was it?
I can't remember if it's Nickelodeon one. No, it was on Fox Kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, the one just before that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good, and I'd love to get a Shredder figure from that because that design for Shredder was beautiful.
Yeah, it's class.
No, I can't. And it would be nice if more stuff from the 90s was picked up, because when it does, it becomes one of the hottest selling things in those lines. So you look at Jim Lee, you look at, well, even Transformers nowadays, the Beast Wars stuff that they're doing for Masterpiece, ridiculous money.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. Even compared to normal Masterpiece stuff, it's ridiculous.
Nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah, it really is. It really is. But it's been nice to see 90s and early 2000s get a bit of love, especially, well, I'm now hit 30, and I'm now in that generation peak. But it seems to be too many companies are still just pushing out the 80s again and again.
Still working with my generation stuff.
Yeah, and there's only so many times you can get a Voltron. You know, there's only so many times they can re-engineer the same thing. You know, and that so many times the Thundercats can come out, as much as they don't get as much love as they need to. I think He-Man's got his third, fourth, fifth figure just from one line of the same version. It's like, here's a slightly more accurate version of the show. Whereas you're talking like the 90s, and there's so many properties that just don't get any love. So many properties.
Okay, so what do you collect nowadays?
So it's quite varied. So behind me, I've got more of sort of Japanesey sort of aesthetic stuff, and behind there as well, I collect a lot of Hasbro lines. Really, Hasbro's really sort of cornered my market, really. So I've got my Marvel Legends, I've got some Star Wars Black series, I've got Transformers Studio series, I've got older Transformers as well, and then I've got Power Rangers Lightning. I just think for the price range that they offer, it's such a good product. And I know there's quality control issues, and there's issues. Oh yeah, in the groups I see them constantly. Like somebody's moaning about a defect today in a group, and it continuously happens. But for what you're paying for those lines, and you compare them to any other line, so you take the Power Rangers line compared to the Lightning Collection line. I know the Lightning Collection compared to the Legacy Collection line. And the Legacy line was more expensive, a weirder scale, non-accurate, and they had less accessories, less bits and bobs. Even the baths they provided were awful. They go for nothing in groups. They sell really cheap. But then Hasbro's come along at a cheaper price range. They've got actors' faces, they've got different hands, different weapons. In actual fact, they've got more weapons than the original releases did.
Yeah.
People still aren't happy with it, but when I'm paying 20 quid a figure and I'm getting all that, it's like, if I want more, I'll go for the more expensive range.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
But for 20 quid, you can have a lot more characters that you can never do than you could with a Figuarts or something.
And of course, with Hasbro owning a bunch of licenses now, they all kind of scale together as well.
Oh, which is beautiful. One of my
which is
things
excellent.
ever. Yeah, so you can have your X-Men alongside your Power Rangers, almost alongside your Star Wars, but they're just a little bit smaller, aren't they?
Like when I
But
used to collect Star Wars and GI Joes years ago when they were 4 inch, I was like, I'd love Marvel to have like stuff like that as well.
well, this is the reason I've never really been in love with DC because they just never got the figure
Um,
game right. Like they're interesting, but I think Marvel, since they've even the days of Toy Biz, they've had it right. They've led the cutting edge on toys, sort of that scale. They've had the perfect toy lines. I say perfect. They're almost perfect,
yeah,
but they
close as you can be.
close you can get for a Western release of that budget, and they've always sort of pushed the forefront of it. And then DC's just sort of slacked behind. They've now got the new line from McFarlane Toys, which is good. It's the best I've seen from it, but
I'm not
that's.
overly convinced myself.
I don't.
I'm not overly convinced myself by the
I think
McFarlane
they're
stuff.
better than a lot of the other DC stuff.
It's
They're the
just the
best I've seen.
scale puts me off really more than anything.
Oh God, the scaling issue is wrong. But I've got a couple up here, but they'll just be one or two that I pick out of the line because
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
things like that where I pick out one or two of a line, I keep that to a side, and that's it. Rather than like the cheaper brands are where I tend to go get the whole lot.
Yeah.
With the premium stuff, it's like I really like that character, so I'll go and get that specific one because I think that showcases that better rather than like you can go get the whole Power Rangers lineup in Figuarts.
Yeah.
You're spending so much money and they just blend into each other. Whereas you go and get yourself one Green Ranger and that would stand out in amongst your shelves, and then get the whole team in the Lightning collection and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
That sort of.
So, what would be in your collection your prized possession?
So I'm as a budget collector, this will be kind of surprising. My favourite one's actually Hot Toys.
Mm,
So I've always sort of like looked at Hot Toys and gone, that's the top of the line. I'll never get one. Can't really afford them nowadays. But for a few Christmases ago, and I think my family was all asking me what I wanted for Christmas, I sort of like post some pictures of the Hela from
Thor
Ragnarok on there,
Ragnarok, yeah.
and I was like, wouldn't mind her. Wouldn't mind. She's lovely. My other half was trying to like put my family off because he'd already ordered it and he'd already got it sent over for us. So I've got well, Hot Toys Hela, which is one of the most beautiful things in the world.
Wow, that is
So
tough.
she's just sat on the shelf constantly for me, and she's a beautiful piece. Like, not only when something's more expensive, I want it to tell me a story.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want it to just be a piece of plastic on a shelf. Like, you get budget figures all the time. That's what they're there for. When it's something expensive like Hela, I want it to tell me a story. So it tells me of like how he went out of his way to order that for me, how he sort of like hid it for so long. Trust me, that's a job because I know everything that comes in this house. So he did a pretty good job at hiding it from me. He had to like set up new accounts on everything to hide it from me. So and even on Christmas Day, I just didn't expect that opening that up, and it was something that I really wanted. I'm quite hard to buy for because normally I've already got it. I've already organised it, or I've got it cheaper. Yeah, that's the issue. So it was and even then, like he knew because people say stuff like, "Well, actually, it's too expensive. I'll pass on that. I've got the Marvel Legend." So I was kind of lying about wanting it because I knew I'd never attain it.
Yeah.
So just to have that come there, it shows sort of like how much thought he put into something like that compared to like, as I say, something really nice that I've spent a bit of money on that doesn't have anything behind it. So I've got a whole something that we do that's a little bit weird is we don't have a lot of photographs around the house. We have the one with the import stuff on mainly. A
Yeah.
lot of that is specific items relating to something in our life. So there'll be figures from shows or eras or stuff like that that have really been a pivotal part in our life and can sort of send you back down memory lane almost.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, so I'm not a big person with photos because it's just one moment, whereas you take that figure like I can pick something out of there. So I've got, for example, I'm trying to think of something like the Mewtwo. I can remember going all the way back to when I was in school and having to go to a birthday party to see the first Pokemon movie, stuff like that. And it's that moment of like those friends that you spent that time with, the hype of the first sort of like cartoon movie you ever went to go and see that was big, the hype of Pokemon, and that's all that condensed into that one thing rather than just like a photograph of the day or in an
Yeah.
album that you never look at.
Yeah.
This is something I love, and it's a memory as well, which is quite nice.
That's really nice. I really like that, man.
Mm.
Okay, so next question is your dream action figure. It can be from any line, any franchise, and you can have anyone make it.
See, this goes down to the 90s line again, and this sort of go. There's one out on the market already, but it's awful. I think I think it would have to be something from He-Man. I think it would have to be the King Hiss. Because I've
Oh yeah,
always sort of liked snakes and stuff like that, but I would want a 2000s version because they went with such a. The Snake Men had awful designs in the original. Like they were literally just like at the end of sort of the creation of the sort of line, weren't they?
yeah.
King Hiss was sort of like there were a few bits of bio on him, and that was it. And it was like, why did he look like that? Why was he sort of like that? But when they brought him back for 2000s, for the 2000 series, they did such a good job at sort of like recreating those characters and making them a main enemy that the toys just never stood up to it. And a lot of them were sculpted by, well, the original figures were sculpted by the Four Horsemen, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's it.
So they had amazing designs that were, and then you go back to the Master of the Universe, and they did it in that Master of the Universe line, but the sculpts just don't work for that era.
Classics, is it?
Yeah, the
MOTT.
classics. The
Yeah,
classics line just doesn't work on the sleeker bodies and stuff like that because they're all roided up. So
yeah.
it just doesn't work with that sort of character. So it'd be nice to see like some revisit of that or something. So I'll instantly be in a shopping trolley any day.
Cool. So the last thing we do, as always, is you're free to plug whomever, whatever, or wherever you want, and tell people where you can be found and stuff like that. Basically.
The main thing that I'd plug is a few of the groups. So we've got Power Rangers Lightning Collection UK, which you're also involved with. We've got Toysorama UK, which is also a store, but we've got a Facebook group that we talk on. That's the main two really at the moment. Nowadays, there's plenty of others which you, as soon as you get into this little world, you find all the other ones that you want to, with lovely community. To be fair,
Yeah.
most of them are lovely. So you
Oh.
obviously have one or two, but
Let's not mention those.
no, let's not mention them.
So thanks a million for coming on, Josh. It's been great chatting to you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll have this up soon, and I can send you links and whatever, etc., etc., etc. Anyway,
Thank you very
so
much.
thanks for coming on, man. And we'll see you. So that was my interview with Joshie Beavan. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe to all the stuff I have linked in the description, the Toysorama group and the Power Rangers Lightning UK group, where you can find him and many others to chat about the stuff we just chatted about it. And yeah, so thanks once again for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, hit the notification bell on my post as well. And that's been me, and we'll see you soon for much more content. Bye.